We just listened to a briefing by Mr. Miladinov and the two statements in the Security Council. And what I would like to say in this regard, that it is crystal clear that the international community is still reiterating Security Council Resolution 2334 in a very strong way. And it is also extremely clear that Israel is not abiding by international law and its obligation under international law and the provisions of the Security Council. Israel tried to not allow the Security Council resolution to be adopted, and they did not succeed. They went in defiance against international law and the provisions of the Council through the acceleration of the illegal things on the settlement front, as was articulated by Mr. Miladinov, and they do not have support from anyone. They are totally isolated. And what the international community is saying in a loud and strong voice, that there is no way but for Israel to respect international law and to respect what the Security Council is demanding in Resolution 2334. And even in addition to that, the Human Rights Council adopted a resolution on settlements today, among other resolutions, and it is the reaffirmation of the global consensus that settlements are illegal, the major obstacle in the path of the two-state solution and peace, and the international community is not budging or retreating from its demand that Israel has to comply with its obligation in this regard. We will continue working with the international community, with the Security Council, and with the Secretary General for the implementation of Resolution 2334. And this effort is not weakening. On the contrary, it is still very strong, and Israel is continuing to isolate itself because it is refusing to comply with international law and its obligation under the provisions of 2337. Thank you.
Mr. Ambassador, when you met with your colleagues from the Arab League, the SG, 2 days ago, did you mention to him that you are concerned that the report on 2234 will not be in writing as future documentation for events?
We, as the State of Palestine, expressed our desire, including in an open debate in the Security Council, and I said it in the meeting with the Secretary General that that is our desire. And I think that, as you heard from Mr. Miladinov and also from the Secretary General, in which they said that the format is not important. What is important is the content. We still are of the opinion, as many others, that a report in writing would be more effective in a sense of using it as a reference point. But also we are very much interested in the content. And in the content, if one to listen very closely to what Mr. Miladinov said, he enumerated what the Security Council resolution asked for, and how Israel not only did not comply, but went in the complete opposite with total disregard to international law and to the provisions of the Security Council. And there is a unanimous position by members of the Security Council that international law should be respected, and Israel has to meet its obligation under these provisions and implement the provisions of Resolution 2334, along with what is required from Israel as an occupying power by international law. We still see that there, and that message has to be continued to be hammered, and Israel has no choice but to respect international law and to meet its obligations, and therefore to implement Resolution 2334.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. I go back to the same point that my colleague Jordan said. There is no precedent in the UN when the Security Council asks in an operative paragraph for a full report on the implementation of this resolution, to respond to that by giving an oral statement. This is unprecedented. Why accept that the provisions of the resolution is violated? It has to be a written report. It calls for a written report. It doesn't call for just to give a statement. And to mix the monthly statement with the report requested in the implementation of resolution
It doesn't call for a report in writing or otherwise. It asks for a report. And I explained our position with regard to our desire and the desire of other members of the Security Council. But that is not the issue. The issue is that there is a strong continuation of a strong position by the international community in upholding Resolution 2334 and calling on Israel to implement it. And it is clear, regardless of how it was reported, that Israel is not abiding by the provision. It is not meeting what is required from it. All states are asked to implement Security Council resolution. Israel cannot be the exception. And that is the message from the Security Council, from the Secretary General, from the community, which means that Security Council Resolution 2334 is still on the table in a very strong way, and Israel is not succeeding. It is in fact failing in trying to negate it, to dance around it, to say that it cannot be implemented, and that is what needs to be emphasized, because this is the most important element of this exercise. Yes?
Thanks a lot. And as I'm sure you know, in the Human Rights Council, there's a big push to get Agenda Item 7. The U.S. said it shouldn't be on the agenda. They called for a vote on everything. Could you just briefly say why it's important, if you believe it is, to keep this separate agenda item on the Human Rights Council's agenda?
As long as there is the violation of the human rights of the Palestinian people in the occupied territory, and as long as Israel is violating international law and its obligation under these provisions, then that subject is needed to be treated in the Council, Human Rights Council, and we are happy that it was dealt with. A debate took place, and 4 resolutions were adopted, and the resolution with regard to settlements was almost adopted unanimously, which means that the message from the international community that settlements are illegal and Israel has to stop settlement activities, and Israel is continuing to violate international law, and that is the very strong message of today, whether in the Security Council debate, in the informal consultation as we speak, and as what happened in Geneva earlier today. Ali.
Ambassador, do you think that the Secretary General and the UN in general is trying to appease the Americans and the Israelis at the expense of the Palestinian cause and issues?
We respect Secretary General Guterres and those who are trying, to create an atmosphere that should not exist in the United Nations in order to weaken his integrity and his strength. We should not fall on their traps. We should, continue collectively to defend the United Nations and what it stands for, and the principles that are enshrined in the Charter of the UN. And there is, in our case, one country that disregards all these things, disrespect the UN, disrespect the Security Council. This is where we should concentrate our, criticisms and call on them, to meet their obligations and not to be distracted on what the things that they do in order to divide all those who defend the United Nations. And the Secretary General is in the forefront, and he is a fresh leadership that is trying to defend the UN and the principles of the United Nations. And as he said to all of us in bilateral meetings, there is no plan B for the two-state solution, and settlements are illegal by, Security Council resolutions, UN resolutions, and the ruling of the ICJ on the wall. And the settlements need to be stopped, not only because they are illegal, but they are the main obstacle in the path of the two-state solution, which need to be defended. These are the positive things that we should concentrate on, and we should not be distracted by those who have disrespect to the UN, to the Security Council, for their own agenda. And if we fall in the trap on issues against the SG and, start, fighting with each other, that will be to their delight. That doesn't mean that we don't have disagreement on certain issues, whether with the SG or other component of the United Nations, but it has to be put in the proper perspective. One last question, and I need to go.
One more question about the
إذا بدك شيء بالعربي.
follow up on the Human Rights Council. Britain has made a very strong statement today that it hasn't made similar statements in the past against having this one-item agenda on one country. Do you detect any changes in the British position specifically?
No, I don't. With regard to settlement, for example, I had a meeting yesterday with the President of the Security Council, who happened to be the ambassador of the UK. Their commitment and defense of Resolution 2334 is unshakable, and they are defending it and upholding it and asking for its implementation. And even in informal consultation, they advanced the argument that this resolution is against settlements and for preserving the two-state solution, and it should be seen in that way. And that effort is an effort to try, to explain, particularly to the delegation of the United States of America, that the essence of 2334, and it should not be seen in any other way except that way. In Arabic, if you want something, and I will go.
Final question. Do you see a trend now in step-siding the Palestinian issue with this new administration? First,
which administration?
The Guterres.
Yes.
First, with Salam Fayyad nomination, under pressure from the U.S., it was withdrawn. Then the ISQA report, it was withdrawn. And now, instead of putting a full, comprehensive written report about implementation of Resolution 2334, here they give an oral statement. Is this trend going to continue and marginalizing?
First of all, with regard to Salam Fayyad, it wasn't the SG. The SG was the one who nominated him, and I think that he was most likely was under the impression that he will be approved. It was the United States of America that, opposed his nomination, and in the explanation of the ambassador of the United States, which was, unacceptable to us, that simply because he's a Palestinian, that, they did not go along with that nomination. So the SG is not responsible for that, and he should be commended for nominating a Palestinian personality such as Salam Fayyad. And with regard, to the other issues that you refer to, we should not concentrate on the Secretary General. In a day like today, when there was a debate in the Security Council over Resolution 2334 and its implementation, the focus should be who is not implementing it, who is violating it, who is still insisting not to comply with it, and what is the message from the Security Council, including from the Secretary General, insisting that 2334 has to be implemented. These are the things that we should concentrate on, and we should not be distracted by other issues. While we might have some opinion here and there, disagreement here and there with the administration of the United Nations, but that is the minor issue. The major issue is the refusal of Israel, the defiance of Israel against international law and Security Council resolution, and the insistence of the Security Council to defend its resolution and to demand from Israel its implementation. And Mr. Miladinov, reflecting the position of the Secretary General, is demanding the same thing in his reporting, because he is asking for Israel to comply with that resolution, because it is settlements are illegal and Israel is refusing to meet its obligation. Thank you.